Yo, what's up, guys? Unfortunate ending to the Raptors season, guys. Losing in Game 7 tonight of the NBA playoffs. 114-102, guys, to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Really unfortunate loss tonight by the Raptors, guys. Ending their season. A really positive season, I felt, for the Toronto Raptors, of course, guys. This season, obviously, we know we had a little bit more expectations with this team, after having the year they had last year. You expected improvement this year with the Raptors, with obviously Adam guys like Brandon Ingram, of course. We knew the Raptors would obviously improve as a team, winning 46 games in the regular season, guys, and now losing in a 7-game series to the Cleveland Cavaliers, in a series where a lot of people did not have the Raptors winning even a couple games in this series. Even Cleveland maybe sweeping us or sweeping the Raptors in 5, or beating the Raptors in 5, guys. So really proud of how the Raptors performed in this series. Really proud of how the Raptors performed in the NBA playoffs, guys, and the regular season and all that other stuff. But really sad ending to the season because I thought the Raptors really played well in the first half of this basketball game. It was tied up at 49 apiece at half. You had guys like Scotty Barnes. You had Jamal Shead, who came out ready to play in this game. Jamal Shead had 7 points in the first quarter. Scotty had 14 at the half with 3 assists and 4 rebounds. Jamal had 14 points on 19 minutes as well. So the Raptors are doing some great things, guys. Defensively, getting stops defensively. Jacoby Walter getting that great as well. Raptors forcing Cleveland to turn the ball over 13 times, guys, in that first half alone. The Raptors were doing some great things defensively on Cleveland, making them turn the ball over 13 times, having 14 points off those turnovers as well, guys. Raptors had 7 steals at the halftime break, so they were doing some great things defensively, even though the Raptors were getting out rebounded 30-20. They were making their shots, getting inside the paint, guys, having 20 points in the paint compared to Cleveland's 18. The Raptors were going to have to continue this for 48 minutes, guys. You did it for one half, needed it for a second half. I said it after Game 6 that the Raptors were going to have to play a full 48 minutes if they want any possibility of winning Game 7, guys. And the Raptors did that for one half. Like I said, Scotty and Jamal Shead did some great things. You had RJ, who had 9 points on 4 of 11 shooting. So RJ wasn't shooting the basketball well, but did get to his spots, had some good baskets, of course, but you wanted the Raptors to be a little bit more efficient because Cleveland was getting those extra baskets at the end of the quarters, guys. Raptors weren't doing a good job closing out quarters. Cleveland went on runs at the end of those quarters, gave them momentum, gave them confidence going into each quarter. And that was very frustrating. We saw that especially in the second half, in the third quarter, where Cleveland went on an 11-1 run to start the third quarter, and it was curtains for the Raptors there, guys. But you had guys like Jakob Poeltl, who unfortunately tonight, guys, really struggled and had 0 points at the half. Jacoby Walter, guys, only had 3 points off 1 of 4 shooting, so he wasn't shooting the ball great in the first half, but obviously got some good stops defensively. CMB got some good stops as well defensively, had 4 points on 15 minutes. AJ Lawson got some minutes. We saw Jameson get some minutes. Mamu, who hasn't had a great series to say the least, only played 3 minutes in that first half, but the Raptors were facilitating the ball well, guys. You limited Harden and Mitchell, guys, where Harden, he only had 10 points. Mitchell had 7. You had Mobley with 6. Dean Wade had 0. So a lot of these guys sure were being neutralized by the Raptors because of how great defensively the Raptors were playing, getting to those guys, limiting their opportunities, of course. But we saw Cleveland get some opportunities as well in this game, guys. Cleveland 7 offensive rebounds, so they had a lot of second chance opportunities, guys. Cleveland had 8 second chance opportunities, second chance points there, so that's frustrating to see, guys. But the Raptors were doing some great things, even though they were shooting 40% from the field, 32% from three-point land. Obviously not great. Cleveland was shooting the ball 35%, 42%, so they were shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. Cleveland weren't making their baskets, and the Raptors were able to capitalize on them. But like I said, guys, Raptors weren't able to close out certain quarters. Coming out into the second half, you expected the Raptors to have the same formula they did in the first quarter, come out the same way. You obviously had some foul trouble as well with Scotty Barnes, who had 3 fouls in that first half, and he still was able to get 14 points to you, but gets 2 fouls like midway through the third quarter, guys. Scotty's obviously on 5 fouls. He's obviously got to be careful. You take him out of the game. Cleveland was able to take advantage of that. They absolutely ran rampant on the Raptors in that third quarter. I think we can agree on that there, guys. So Cleveland outscored the Raptors 38-19 in that third quarter, guys. You had guys like Jared Allen, who was pretty quiet for most of this series. Didn't have crazy games, but tonight Jared Allen decided to save his best game for last, having 22 points and 19 rebounds, guys. 8 of those being offensive rebounds. Just another indictment on Jakob Poeltl as a center, a guy who can jump, not very mobile, doesn't have a jump shot, can't make his free throws. You can see tonight when having an athletic center, a guy like Jared Allen, of course, who can get you rebounds, get you points, got to the line 14 times. He was absolutely the X factor tonight for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jared Allen was, Harden only had 18, on 3 of 9 shooting, got to the line 13 times. So that's what James Harden was mostly doing, was drawing fouls, get to the line. Donovan Mitchell only had 22 points on 9 of 20 shooting. Strus had 12, and speaking of Matt Strus, man, some of the refereeing calls in this game were absolutely questionable. Strus putting his head into Scotty, grabbing Scotty a few times, and then when Scotty finally bites back, and gives him a little shove, Scotty gets called for the offensive call there. Really frustrating refereeing tonight in a Game 7 of the NBA playoffs. Strus did some questionable things tonight, made some shots as well. Had 12 points on 4 of 10 shooting on 20 or 30 minutes of play, sorry. And, he was really pissing me off at times of how he was grabbing Scotty, how physical he was being. Scotty never got any type of favorable whistle in this game tonight, guys. Was really frustrating to seeing how much he got away with tonight. Really pathetic, to say the least. But, listen, I think we can all agree, guys, the Raptors just got too cold offensively in that third quarter. Didn't get the stops defensively. Cleveland was breaking them down, collapsing the defense, kicking it out to guys like Merrill, who did a good job having 13 points, guys, on 4 of 8 shooting. So Merrill was good. Strus was good. Tyson wasn't bad either. He only had 7 points, but you had Cleveland's role players being the X factor in this game today, and including Jared Allen as well, guys. You had Mobley with 13. He wasn't very effective today. Of course, he had foul trouble as well. So Jared Allen was the one dominating most in the paint, just bullying Jakob Poeltl. I understand why Raptor fans do not want Jakob Poeltl back, guys. But, his contract's kicking in. He's going to make a shit ton of money. We're going to have to sacrifice a couple of draft picks. If you guys are willing to do that, and Bobby Webster is, maybe he might have to do it to bite the bullet and get rid of Yak and maybe get an athletic center in here. But we saw the flaws in this game today, guys. In Game 4, in the fourth quarter, the Raptors did try to battle back, did outscore Cleveland 34-27, but that third quarter, guys, getting outscored 38-19, like I mentioned, was the absolute dagger in this series for the Raptors, and you just knew there was no coming back for them in this game, guys, and you knew that their season was going to come to a wrap. We all knew that the Raptors had flaws, guys. You knew they had some flaws depth-wise. You didn't have a center, didn't have a backup center, didn't have a lot of guys who could score on the perimeter. You had some guys who were really good defensively, but have their limitations offensively, of course. So Bobby Webster has to make it a priority this summer to get himself an athletic center, get some perimeter guys shooting-wise. But this Raptors team, guys, they are not far off for being a competitive team from competing again in the NBA, guys. There's obviously a lot of question marks as well when you have 2 guys combining for $7 million sitting on the bench, guys like IQ and Brandon Ingram. Of course, you're going to lose this series, but the Raptors battled, got it to a 7-game series when IQ didn't even play in this series. Even though he played in Game 82, a little bit of a questionable call there. You had to get to the top 6 spot there, so I understand why they did it. But then after, he ends up hurting himself, becoming non-existent in this series. Brandon Ingram, who had a great season, played 77 games. Unfortunately, in this series was non-existent, and a lot of us fans were looking forward to seeing who would match up against him because, he's obviously a unique player to guard. And unfortunately, Brandon Ingram, guys, as we saw, was just absolutely horrendous in certain moments in this game, re-aggravating his heel injury, of course. He could have maybe been important in a game like this, but the way the series was going, guys, it wasn't good enough by Brandon Ingram. He could have helped spread the floor more, be a bit of a decoy possibly, but unfortunately, Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel quickly, very disappointing in this series. Even Sandro Mamukelashvili, he was disappointing in this series, guys. Mamu only played tonight 8 minutes, for God's sakes. Mamu was not good in this series tonight, guys, in general at all. Jakob Poeltl, 22 minutes, 9 points, 7 rebounds on 4 or 5 shooting. It's just not good enough for a guy you're playing close to $30 million for. He got absolutely dominated tonight, and I understand why a lot of Raptor fans do not want him on this team moving forward. Really back-breaking things happened tonight on the glass. Raptors got absolutely killed tonight on the glass, guys. 69 rebounds by the Cavs. compared to the Raptors 45, guys. You know, Cleveland only shot 45% from the field, 28% from three. Raptors shot 29% from three, 44% from the field, guys. 69% from free throws. Another thing that needs to happen in the offseason is everybody learning how to shoot their damn free throws and making both of them, for God's sakes. Really frustrating to say the least. Raptors had 25 assists. Usually the Raptors have more than that. Obviously wasn't great tonight facilitating-wise in the second half. Cleveland only had 23 assists. Raptors had 14 turnovers compared to Cleveland's 17. We had 50 points compared to Cleveland's 42, guys, but Cleveland had 23 second chance points, guys. Obviously, that was due to having 20 offensive rebounds compared to the Raptors 7. Their guys just absolutely dominated us on the glass tonight. You know, had 13 fast break points. You know, they were able to match the Raptors fast break points-wise. You know, they were able to have more points off turnovers with 19, guys, on the Raptors, 14 turnovers. Cleveland was just a better team in the second half. Brought that intensity, brought that hunger, and they were the better team tonight, guys, and they deserve to go on to the second round to play the Detroit Pistons, of course, you know. But this Raptors team here, guys, this year we could say is obviously disappointing, but you knew that this team here was just going through the experience, going through those growing pains. Now, going into next season, of course, if you lose a series like this, you know, with more expectations, you're obviously going to be a little bit more disappointed. But I felt this team here showed some really good glimmers of flashes for the future. Really bright prospects for this team, guys. You know, guys like CMB, Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shed. Sure, those guys like CMB and Jamal Shed have their limitations offensively, but they're great offensively. Can only get better offensively. Jacoby had some slumps offensively, but had some great games in this series, especially the last game, guys. You know, some great moments as well in this series by those certain players, guys like Jamal Shed with the great play to get the 8-second violation. You had CMB with the fantastic dunk. You had CMB as well with the great stop against Donovan Mitchell there. So there was some great moments. Jacoby with the great games he had shooting-wise, great defensive efforts as well. So there's nothing to be proud of with the Raptors. Scotty Barnes, you know, just on the brink of superstardom, just having an incredible series on one freaking leg, having 24, 9, and 6 with having 5 personal fouls in this game. That's a pretty solid performance, you know, by Scotty Barnes tonight and the entire series as a whole. He was by far the best player of this series, guys, and I am looking forward to seeing what Scotty Barnes brings to the table next season for the Toronto Raptors, guys. Coach Darko said in his press conference after the game, we have just seen the beginning of Scotty Barnes, and I fully agree with what he's saying. RJ Barrett, guys, played 43 minutes tonight, 23 points, 9 of 25 shooting. Wasn't very efficient tonight, guys, but RJ Barrett in this series made Canadians proud. You know, obviously being from Toronto, of course, had a fantastic series. You know, representing the city, of course. You know, he was very good defensively at times in the series. Obviously, had some limitations, of course, defensively at certain points in this series, of course. But offensively, RJ Barrett was fantastic for the Raptors, guys. So obviously, there was a lot of chatter about trading him this offseason. And at the deadline, of course, Raptors have a difficult decision to make now regarding RJ Barrett because he was absolutely fantastic in this series. Do I think he could be a second option? Maybe, sure. But having him as a third option is even better, of course, if you can get another guy in here, if whatever happens with Brandon Ingram, of course, because I don't know what his future holds after what happened in this playoff series, guys, where the Raptors were able to perform without him and find ways to win games without him in the lineup. Same thing for Emmanuel Quickly. There's a lot of things going to happen in the offseason for the Raptors, guys, but you know who your core is now. CMB, you got Jacoby, Shed, RJ, Scotty. Those are the guys there. You know, I like AJ Lawson, like Jamison Battle. You got question marks with, obviously, Brandon Ingram, who's obviously still here for a couple more years. Quickly signed a big deal. Of course, Jakob Poeltl's deal needs to kick in. You know, Grady Dick obviously had a horrendous season. Of course, there's a lot of question mark on what happens with the Raptors this offseason. Do I expect these guys to move? Would be very difficult, but this is the NBA. Anything can happen. Any guy could get traded or get moved at any point in the offseason. So it's going to be very interesting to see, guys. But really disappointing way for the Raptors season to end, guys. You know, but they made us proud. Battled really hard in this series, guys. Taking it to 7 games. Had a lot of injuries. Guys were dealing with injuries. Obviously had those guys sitting, like I mentioned. You had some guys who really underperformed in this series. Guys like Mamu and Jakob Poeltl. Of course, Mamu's also going to be a free agent. So that's going to be interesting to see. He's got to opt in or out. So that's going to be interesting with Mamu as well, guys. This team here will not be the same going into next season, guys. Hopefully, Bobby Webster does what it takes to improve this team because this team here has a great young couple core pieces, guys, that can really take this Raptors team forward, guys. And, you know, the future is bright for this squad, guys. Really positive series for the Raptors, guys. Obviously, that second half was very ugly. Cleveland, obviously, the deserved winner. But unfortunately, guys, they have the veteran guys. Were able to make the Raptors' life difficult, able to draw the fouls, get to the line, make their shots. And that's curtains, guys, for the 25-26 season, guys. Really fun season for the Raptors, guys. You had some great moments as well. You know, you had that 9-game win streak at the beginning of the season. Scotty had that monster game against Golden State. You had Quippy with the game winner against Charlotte, guys. Some of those moments that I just recall at the top of my head right now. There's a bunch of other moments, to say the least. You know, Scotty having that dunk last game as well. Some really bright moments this season for the Toronto Raptors, guys. Really improved this season. Coach Darko as well. Really improved as a coach as well. Adjusted well in this series, guys. But unfortunately, the team fell a little bit short this season, guys. But really good season by the 25-26 Raptors, guys. Really looking forward to seeing what happens next season, guys, for the 26-27 Raptors, guys. But anybody that liked, comment, subscribed, and watched my videos this season, thank you very much, guys. As always, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the offseason. Be on the lookout for any transactions or moves that happen regarding the Raptors right here on Raptors Unfiltered, guys. Thank you very much for watching, as always, guys. So click like if you like this video, guys. Subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Go Raptors, go as always, guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Raptors Unfiltered. Ciao, guys.